Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Fired Up. My name is Morgan McLintic, and today I am joined by Nicole Pytel. Hey, Nicole.
Hi, Morgan. Hey, everybody. We're also joined with one of our own today, which is very exciting.
Yes, Shane Jordan, who's in our
Everyone.
digital marketing team. Shane, welcome to Fired Up.
Thanks so much. Excited to be here. This is my first time on the podcast. It's a special one.
Yeah, you'll do a great job. So today we're going to be talking about GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. So all of the ChatGPT, Perplexity, all the AI search that people are doing, how do you make sure that your brand comes up in all those prompts? How is that different from SEO? And how do you measure it? And why would you want to do it? And what are some of the best practices? This is a topic that's very current at the moment. We're talking to a lot of our clients about it. And if you open up LinkedIn, you'll see tons of posts about it. So we thought we'd just bring in Shane today to explain a little bit about it. So just to get started, Shane, perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about how search behavior is changing at the moment.
Search behavior is going through a big shift right now. And this is probably one of the biggest shifts that we've seen since, maybe even mobile search took off. So that's roughly like 10 or 15 years, right? So, in essence, people are less and less just typing keywords into Google and clicking through a list of links. And increasingly, they're turning to AI chatbots, like you mentioned, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google's AI overviews. They get fast, synthesized answers, right? Straight there without having to click through. So as these platforms are generating these responses, more often than not, the searcher is getting sufficient results, right? And not having to click through a web page for additional research. So yes, we're seeing the biggest shift here, the rise of these tools and the change of search behavior. And so how can we think about that for brands? We think about, instead of optimizing our content purely for ranking, right, in traditional search engines, we might want to think about being referenced or cited within AI generated summaries. Okay. So that means it's not so much about visibility in the SERPs, it's more about being understood by AI. And that's where we're going to talk a little bit about semantics versus kind of keyword packing.
Similar foundations to SEO, but a little bit different. And we've been reading for, who knows how long, about these search crawlers that come and they crawl the site and they tell Google who to put where and all of these things. So how do these generative engines like ChatGPT, how are they different in the way that they're gathering information?
So traditional search engines like Google, they're going to crawl the web, they're going to index it, and they're going to rank the content based on a range of signals like relevance, authority, recently, kind of how fresh the content is, or a few things that they factor in. These AI chatbots or answer engines or large language models, those behind ChatGPT and Gemini, those are going to work a little bit differently. They're trained on large amounts of text initially to understand kind of patterns in language. So they don't crawl in real time unless they have the browsing enabled. What they do is they predict the best answer based on their training data that they have already had, or they can go out and retrieve data from curated sources. And that's where you're getting the tools like retrieval, augmented generation, et cetera. So rather than ranking pages, they synthesize what they know to generate the answer. So a brand's website content has to be understood, and the context has to appear trustworthy, structured, relevant for it to be included within those answers. So LLMs, in essence, don't really search. They generate answers based on what they've learned or retrieved already.
But they do combine some of that training data with live web search, right? So it's sort of it's synthesizing those two data sources.
Yeah, you can have, if browsing is enabled, you're able to grab information from real-time web. Sometimes they're more closed systems. For example, if you want to retain client proprietary information, et cetera. So
it's based on its training data and some live web information. Tell us a little bit about the difference then between SEO and GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, which I think is the term that most people are sort of settling on. You might have seen AIO or some other terms, but GEO is the term that I think we're going with.
I think that encompasses the best. And so when we think of generative engine optimization or GEO, we think about it as kind of the next evolution of SEO. So it's not replacing SEO, it's really expanding upon it. So SEO is still very focused on driving clicks through Google, Bing, traditional search engines, right? And here you're going to still be optimizing for page rank, through metadata, et cetera. On GEO, on the other hand, is more about brand inclusion and AI generated answers. So here you're trying to influence query results in tools like ChatGPT or Perplexity. So you really want to optimize to drive clicks from Google and Bing. And so, for example, you might optimize a page for the keyword, I don't know, like best CRM for startups. Whereas in GEO, you're thinking, what would ChatGPT say if someone asked the same question? Okay. So you want your content to be in that synthesized response, ideally as a cited example. So in short, GEO optimized to appear in AI answers, no click, synthesized. It's an expanded layer on top of SEO. So SEO gets you ranked, GEO more gets you cited.
So you already answered one of the most common questions that I hear clients ask you on calls is SEO still a thing? Yes, it very much is still a thing. The other common question that I know you get from clients constantly is, okay, well, how do I get my brand into these answers? How do I optimize for visibility? What are some of the GEO best practices?
Love this question. And as part of a larger GEO strategy, there are a few really tactical things that brands can jump into right now. So number one, they can start structuring content for AI chatbot consumption. So think about clear headers, think about bullet points, think about FAQs in your schema markup. Okay, so AI tools need to be able to have clarity to extract meaning from content. And then another thing that you can do secondarily would be to use semantically rich language. So AI looks for context more than exact match keywords that you would see more of an SEO strategy. So make sure the content naturally reflects how people ask questions. Kind of think about that as you create the content. A third tactic would be adding credibility signals, right? Those would be for blogs and articles. You want to have built out author bios, include links in your content to reputable sources, external links, and just be ready to explain your expertise, right? Like try not to be super general. AI platforms favor content that looks authoritative and transparent. So an easy way to do that is updating author bios, credentials, clear sources. Another tactic would be thinking about your content formats. So we've been testing something called ranch style content clusters. So these are shorter, more modular type content pieces versus your traditional long format SEO content pieces. So that makes it more easy for AI tools to parse and cite that content for you. So that's another good one. And then finally, think about publishing product-centric FAQs. This is a big one that's really catching on right now. And this would be in addition to like maybe traditional glossaries that you might have, but product-centric FAQs on product pages, this really helps with both traditional and GEO visibility, especially on these kind of high intent pages. So think less like a search engine and more like AI trying to explain your product about reformatting content for GEO.
There's a lot of overlap, though, isn't there, right, between SEO and GEO. For SEO, you're trying to answer people. You're creating a pillar page, and you're trying to answer long tail keywords about that. And that sort of remains the same, but you've just said this ranch style, you might break up that anchor or pillar page into smaller chunks so it's more spread out into sort of clustered information to address it. But fundamentally, content creation, answering questions in a human-like way is great for SEO, which is still, a massive amount of the traffic that comes to websites compared to AI traffic. So that remains the same. The site performance, I think, technical optimization is a key part of SEO. When you're looking at page load speed and first contentful paint, all that good stuff. The same remains for GEO, correct? Because search crawlers or AI crawlers have got a specific amount of time to crawl down your page. So you want to put the important stuff up at the top, which would be the same for SEO. And you just talked about having a nice structured way, lots of different formats in bullet points, in tables, in graphics. So I think a lot of, if you're thinking, hey, I want to appear in AI search, you can't just suddenly jump just to that and ignore the SEO. The path to getting into these chatbots often goes through the best practices or aligns with the best practices for SEO anyway, right?
That's absolutely right. So our foundational best practices of SEO really have set the foundation for us being able to make sure that we continue to rank in traditional search results. And so understanding that AI search, although very kind of popular and something, big focus currently for brands, it still remains less than 2% of the entire search market. So the search market is still dominated by Google and much less Bing. And you have far much less, these AI search engines, but at the same time, they are growing in popularity. Search behavior is changing. So we do need to adhere to kind of both strategies at the same time, which is actually great because it gives us opportunities to be able to not only drive visibility, where you might find that in some of the AI results, but then as customers or prospective customers are looking for specific products or looking for deeper information, that's where they're going to find that information more often in traditional search results. And so they're coming to a site more mid-funnel than they would top funnel originally, right? So you're getting maybe even a more qualified site visitor at the end of the day. So it is actually all working together very well for brands.
One of the points you raised there was the thing about author bios. So these have become more important. And why is that? Because AI chatbots value trust. They trust people rather than sort of domains. And so what changes does that mean? That might mean on your blog, instead of being part of the team from your company, you have to name a specific person and then create a dedicated page, an author bio page. Like, what goes on that author bio page? Is that all of their blog posts? Is that is actually a description of them? Is it linked? Like, what's on the author page?
On the author page, you're going to want to have enough information that's going to identify you or set you aside as an expert on a specific topic or series of topics, right? A theme, maybe. So having that tells the AI generated search engines that the resource that they are getting the content from is something trustworthy, has a certain level of expertise, and is most likely answering questions in the kind of a natural language that they are more apt to include in their responses. Those things all together, having a really tightly knit author bio. And if you can include external links to other pieces that you've done, it allows those search engines to understand other types of content that brings it in. Kind of tightening up author bios, particularly for blogs, articles on the site, is a great tactic to start improving your opportunity at getting more visibility in AI search results.
So we've talked about getting visibility, and obviously you can get a lot of answers right there in the output, but ChatGPT and the like, they do provide source links. So if you want to dig deeper, you can. So how do I know if I'm actually getting traffic from these AI chatbots? Like, we want to get more visibility, but how do we know if we're putting these best practices into practice? How do we know if it's working?
We look through a few different lenses at this. One of them is traffic source attribution. So what kind of traffic are we getting from AI chatbots and platforms? Another is engagement metrics. So as we're getting traffic from these platforms, what's the time on page look like? What's the bounce rate look like? Any other kind of engagement metrics to give us insights into behaviors and the website behaviors. And then keyword tracking for AI overviews. So tools like SEMrush allow us to see what queries trigger AI snapshots. So it's not exactly within ChatGPT or Perplexity, but it is giving us insights into some AI generated results. So some tools are already kind of providing some of that information. So that's great. And then very initially, there are a few tools out there that we're exploring that I think a lot of people are trying to take a look at, where they're trying to figure out ways to get brand mentions and citations. Impressions is really tough to get, basically impossible to get on ChatGPT, Perplexity, some of these other platforms. So we really have to rely on other engagement signals to kind of tell a full story for us.
Right. So you can use GA4 to show you referring sites, and you can then create a report that would say, hey, this is coming from OpenAI, and this is coming from Claude, or this is coming from Perplexity, and you can see what that traffic is, and then what quantity. You can track that over time. You can then see whether they have conversions. Is this high quality content? You can see the landing pages that traffic comes in. So i.e., you can then assume that, hey, this was in the prompt response and we were cited. So whatever it's about, whatever we've optimized this page for, this is probably the kind of material that ChatGPT is looking for. And as I've looked through some of our reports, I noticed that a lot of them are SEO pages. Like, they are glossaries, they are anchor pages, they are things that are optimized, Q&A kind of information. I've seen this across lots of different companies. So we know at this point quite informational, but quite specific questions. So you can then deduce, all right, we're showing up here for this kind of information. Maybe we need to produce more of that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Taking a look at monthly, quarterly reports from clients and taking a look at what type of content is being cited, kind of traffic we're getting from that. As you mentioned, a lot of it is coming from the type of responses that people would be looking for when typing in more kind of, as you might think of, top funnel queries, more informational, more research queries. And when you're getting more into the details of products, more comparative research, et cetera, that's when you might find yourself clicking more on traditional SEO links, to kind of get that information straight from the website. And so that's been a change, but certainly one that we're working with.
I mean, SEMrush has had for a while the rich snippets, so like little crown it is in its tool, in that particular tool, to say, hey, for this keyword, you have won the rich snippet. And that used to be the little bar or the top bar at the top or on the side in the SERPs, search engine results page. And now it's evolved that into AI overviews. So you can tell, I don't know how reliable this is, but you can kind of tell we are appearing for these keywords in the AI overviews feature for Google. So that's good. SEMrush also has, it's just come out of beta, right? A tool for tracking share of voice in ChatGPT or in ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc. i.e. how often does your brand appear? It seems to me that this tool it's only just come out of beta and it's still very raw because you can't specify. The way it works, it seems, is it basically just asks the same prompt every day and then records the results. It's literally just doing it on an input. OpenAI doesn't publish any data like Google does about keywords or prompts or anything. So the mechanism is simply, well, we'll just ask the same question every day and sort of see whether we turn up.
Correct. A lot of these measurement tools are really kind of still in their infancy, if you will. I mean, you're not able to even choose your competitors or choose what keywords or any of this stuff, right? So as you said, it's just kind of at the whim of what they choose to do. At least there's a start in something. At least we're getting some traction, some visibility. And so again, trying to tie these metrics together with engagers metrics helps us tell a story, right? A fuller story about what's going on and identify areas where we can maximize opportunities. So as you said, if we're seeing certain keywords or certain pages are coming up as being cited more and we're getting more traffic from them, then it's a good opportunity to continue doing more within that thread, maybe to continue, getting more traffic from them.
Now, I just read a data point here that I think is relevant, that Bain had put out a report that said organic traffic to many sites is anticipated to go down by 15 to 25%. Because people are just not, you might be coming up in the search results, but people are looking at the overviews and they're not clicking down to SERP 2, SERP 3 and clicking there. It's concentrated. And then, of course, there's zero-click behavior. And then the theory is that people come in onto your website, then they are mid-funnel. You would imagine then that they would convert a higher percentage. They've already done a lot of their, early stages. But Nicole, I don't know, on the reports that you've looked at, I don't know that I think the volumes are so small, the number of conversions is tiny, right?
Yeah. From what I've seen in reports, conversions are low, but engaged sessions are really high. Engaged sessions are really high. Average session duration tends to be quite high. I was working on a report for a client this morning, and their AI traffic was double the time on site than the regular traffic. So I asked around to some of the firebranders and said, hey, what makes you click on something that you get in an answer from ChatGPT? And it was kind of like, well, if I want to dig deeper into a statistic it gave me, or I want to verify in context, like, hey, you gave me this piece of information, like, what is like the content around it? Am I interpreting it correctly? Or I'm just really interested in it and I want to learn more about it. So it seems like it would be higher intent traffic that would be more engaged. Shane, is that what you're seeing as well?
We are seeing the same things, and I would agree that it's a small subset to try to get too many insights into. As far as we're seeing a rise of engagement, where the rise in conversions, I think it's pretty early. I think the data is still pretty narrow on that. As far as research as marketers, We're doing all kinds of research nonstop. As prospective product buyers, they might be doing a bit different type of research than us. And so like they would have different things driving behind them to click on links. But I hear what you're saying. And so one of the things that comes to mind is that, and this is just kind of thinking out loud a bit, but is that like, because a prospective, web visitor, prospective customer of yours is coming into the site mid funnel and has done previous research to get there, maybe they've just had less actual exposure with your brand, visual and otherwise, in order to be as quick as we might expect for them to make a jump from mid funnel to lower funnel. It's just kind of thinking out loud as a marketer and thinking about customer journeys. And when they start that off, if they were doing their initial research and had to go to their site pre-AI generated search results, that's an opportunity for them to start experiencing the brand, like start experiencing that creative, how it resonates with them, et cetera. Whereas in these AI generated search responses, we really don't get that opportunity. It's pretty black and white. Okay. And so it's great for doing comparative things, but you really miss out on kind of brand exposure. Right. And so I think that potentially maybe that's why they're spending a little more time on the site, because they need to, when they come in mid funnel, because they need to soak up some of that and get a feel for the brand. Does it gel with them and how it's going to help them do their job better or something? So could be some of that.
Yeah, I got a couple of great points here, but statistics here. One is that 79% of global B2B buyers report that AI-powered search tools enable them to be more efficient in their information gathering, particularly early stage of their buying behavior. That's a G2 statistic. So people are actively using it at the top of the funnel. And then you mentioned, hey, maybe there's sort of difference in generations here in the way that people use AI search. And again, here Forrester has said 50% of younger B2B buyers incorporate AI agents and generative AI tools into their purchasing decisions, reflecting a significant shift towards digital and automated solutions. So Forrester is saying, hey, younger buyers are really using these actively at the moment. And I read a related stat that they're expecting deals, B2B deals up to $1 million in value to be transacted self-serve digitally. So that means a massive amount when they actually come to your site. They've done a lot of their research and they want to be able to transact on the site, not sort of contact sales. They want to be able to self-serve the demo, look at the use cases, try it out in the sandbox, put in their use case, the number of seats, and buy it. And up to $1 million is that's a big transaction. So I definitely think that there's a generational element towards this too.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. A lot of the tools that so many people who are kind of veterans in the industry are kind of scrambling to catch up and learn are just natural, native to a lot of the junior people that are coming in.
Shit, like if I'm a tech startup, I'm thinking, okay, I could invest in SEO, but like I'm trying to sell to tech forward people who are probably in this cohort, right? This group of people who are disproportionately using AI search. Those are my people. Should I just skip over SEO or just go all in on GEO?
It's a great question. I would say you certainly don't want to skip over SEO. You want to keep investing in SEO, but you also want to make sure that you are layering in GEO tactics along the way, right? So if you haven't started, definitely get started, right? As soon as possible. Traditional SEO still driving the bulk of our high intent traffic, especially for B2B, as we mentioned. So this isn't just a trend. There is a shift that's going on in how people access information. So we just need to make sure that we are there where the searchers are going and we have the kind of the UX and everything set up for maybe this new generation of potential buyers, right? So keep investing in SEO, layer in those GEO tactics, make sure your content's structured properly. You've got AI-friendly formatting. You've got those credibility signals that we've talked about. This is how you're going to be able to future-proof your brand for GEO. So get that early funnel visibility, brand authority, and then, make sure that you're just layering that GEO on top of SEO.
Yeah, the one thing I know that you talk a lot about to clients is SEO is a long game. So for GEO, I'm assuming it's similar. You're not going to just be all over ChatGPT tomorrow. When is a good expectation of when you might see some results? And I know that's a very hard question to answer. We're so early in this era. Is it similar to SEO? Is that what we're thinking right now?
I mean, I don't think there's any data right now on this, but I would think that it would be a little bit quicker than traditional SEO. Thinking about how search engines work and Google and Bing crawlers work is that they're going to index the site on their own schedules and they're going to bring in that information. Whereas if you're using a ChatGPT, Perplexity, et cetera, and you have the web enabled, it's grabbing real-time information, right? So there's probably, I would imagine, a better chance for you to get more immediate or at least quicker results, through GEO stuff. But you've got to have that SEO foundational layer, or it's not going to look at your content as being trustworthy, as being the right type of content to cite.
Right. And I would imagine that Gemini, which is Google's AI search engine, is built on top of Google's index. Like, it has Google's index, right? So it's definitely using that, leveraging that information to come up with its results. So if you're not indexed correctly there, that's probably not going to be good for you in the training data.
Absolutely.
I liked your point here about there's a lot of advice. Like, the advice that we're giving here is are the things that we're doing with our clients and we're seeing results. It's by no means the comprehensive playbook that you might have for SEO because it is so early. There will be other emerging best practices that we recommend and that we adopt. And you can look out there with a bit of research and you can see people with sort of pockets of improvements with different structures. Hey, we'll do the LLM text file and I think that's useful. Is it LLMS? LLMS.text file. But how important is that? Like, how important is that? So I think a lot of, as you say, a lot of the results are somewhat anecdotal at the moment because this is so new. And that's exciting, right? You can get ahead of it. And we know that this is the direction, but it is an emerging field. With that said, Shane, what advice would you have or any final sort of tips you'd have for startups out there as they're thinking, all right, the board has said we got to do something with AI search, or what are we doing with AI search? Any final bits of advice?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say, first of all, stay calm, keep things in perspective. Don't overthink it too much, but don't ignore it. We talked about a GEO strategy. We've talked about tactics that you can employ within that strategy, but really kind of where do we start, right? Where could somebody start? And so I think the best thing would just be to take a look at your most important pages, right? And so these are probably your high traffic pages, product pages, service pages, and just doing a quick almost GEO audit of them. Are they easy for AI to understand? Are they answering key questions that somebody might ask in ChatGPT? And this is where an FAQs section at the bottom of your product pages can be super helpful, right? Do they show expertise, right? Are we being general or are we being specific about the details and maybe including some of our product differentiators from competitors, et cetera. So definitely want to make sure we've got that clarity and that authority baked in to our most important pages. So, and then again, layer in those low-hanging fruits of GEO, get those author bios updated. As you mentioned, test out your LLMs.txt file. Think about all the things that we can do in order to send those positive signals about our products. I'd say the last point would really just stay curious. I think, as marketers, as you mentioned, it's a very exciting time. The space is evolving very quickly. And so it's great to start with some strong fundamentals of just having trustful, helpful content that, is going to help people answer the questions they're looking for on the web.
Brilliant advice there. Shane, thanks for your time today. Really enjoyed that. Unpacking some of these latest GEO best practices as they emerge and just sort of seeing what we're doing out there, showing people how to measure what traffic is coming out. And we'll link to a blog post that you wrote about how to measure that stuff in GA4, some very sort of tactical advice there. And also a more recent post about some of these best practices if you're interested in what, okay, LLMS.text, what is that and where do I put that? We got the answer for that and we'll put that in the show notes. Nicole, Shane, thanks for your time. And thank you for listening. If you like that, please follow us on YouTube and drop us a comment and we'll see you all next week.